Marina Fairweather had been the head pharmacist at Honeythorn Village's only drugstore for 5 years, and she prided herself on knowing her customers' unique habits. The store was a small, standalone brick building on the edge of the village's main road, across from a bakery and next door to the local florist. With its vintage sign swinging out front and a cheerful window display of cold remedies and plush animals, the pharmacy served as a gathering spot for townsfolk. Marina knew which regular needed an extra spool of gauze for their arthritic cat's paw, which ones insisted on cherry-flavored cough drops, and which ones needed patient reassurance about the side effects of new prescriptions. Despite the typical hustle and bustle, steered by coughs and colds, the gentle day-to-day life in Honeythorn generally flowed at a relaxing pace. One evening, after closing up shop, Marina was finishing her daily inventory check. She always verified stock levels on a small group of high-level medications, painkillers, sedatives, and anything else that required an additional signature. Honeythorn was sleepy, but unscrupulous folks existed in every corner of the world. That particular evening, her eye fell on an unusual repetition. One prescription had been refilled 3 times in the last few weeks. She stared at the medication name, an opioid typically prescribed for intense pain, and then at the patient's name. Had she missed something, or was her record keeping off? The person listed was Mr. Zacharias Pratt, a name known to everyone in Honeythorn. He was the town's reclusive millionaire, though millionaire might have been rumor or exaggeration. No one actually knew how much money he possessed, but they knew he lived in a large manor at the far end of Honeythorn. He rarely ventured out. When people gossiped about him, they often spoke of Pratt's philanthropic gestures, privately funding the new school library, offering hush donations to the local hospital, or sponsoring the village's annual charity fair. But he maintained a tight lid on his personal affairs. Most folks had only glimpsed him once or twice, if ever, choosing instead to rely on whispered speculation to fill in the gaps of who he was and how he lived. Marina double-checked her records. Why so many refills in such a short time frame for such a potent medication? These refills were approved by a local physician, Dr. Langley, but Dr. Langley was a kind and cautious man who rarely escalated pain medication unless absolutely necessary. Had Mr. Pratt's pain gotten worse? Marina recalled she hadn't seen Zacharias himself come in for these pickups. Instead, a slender, anxious-looking man named Joel often arrived to collect them. Joel introduced himself as the personal assistant to Mr. Pratt, always in a hurry, always wearing a slightly wrinkled suit. He'd sign the required forms with shaky penmanship and hurry out of the pharmacy as if he carried a top-secret package. On reflection, she realized Joel had been coming in more frequently than she remembered, each time with the documents in perfect order. But if everything was so legitimate, why did it feel off? She decided it could be a numerical slip in the computer system. After locking up, she carried a manila folder housing the suspicious prescription receipts for the last month to her desk at home. Maybe she was overthinking. Still, she had a persistent tug at her mind. Excessive opioid refills were never a good sign. Someone could be abusing them. Or there was a deeper criminal reason, such as illegal distribution, and given the hush-hush nature of Mr. Pratt's existence, it was impossible to dismiss the idea of wrongdoing entirely. She brewed a quick cup of chamomile tea and paged through the documents. Each refill request was accompanied by Dr. Langley's digital signature and the correct patient info, and each was picked up by Joel, always promptly, always politely. None of these details was overtly incriminating, but something felt off. The next morning, as the sun broke over the rolling green hills that cradled Honeythorn, Marina arrived at the pharmacy with a plan. It wasn't anything sensational, just a short chat with Dr. Langley to confirm the prescription. The local clinic was only a few steps away. Dr. Langley served as the village's main physician, aided by a few traveling specialists. He was a gentle older man with salt-and-pepper hair and wire-rimmed glasses, who treated his patients with a fatherly approach. Marina dropped by near lunchtime. He was in his office, having just finished with a patient. "Marina, nice to see you. Everything all right? Dr. Langley asked, leaning onto his desk. The faint lines on his brow suggested it had been a busy morning. She offered him a professional smile. I'm fine. Thanks for fitting me in. I'm here about a prescription for Mr. Pratt. A shadow of concern crossed the doctor's face.
Yes, what about it?
Marina explained about the repeated refills over the past few weeks. Dr. Langley frowned, rolling his chair to his computer and scanning the logs carefully. This is correct. I have been signing off on these refills, but not around the same times. It's strange to see this many close together. Marina inched forward in her seat, tension coiling in her shoulders. You didn't notice anything unusual that might indicate his condition is deteriorating? Dr. Langley exhaled softly, his eyes still on the computer. He has chronic back pain from what he described as a riding accident in his youth. But to my knowledge, that pain was never so severe as to require frequent reminders for refills. Recently, though, I received phone calls from his personal assistant Joel stating that Mr. Pratt's pain has become excruciating. Yet Mr. Pratt didn't directly contact you. Well, no, Dr. Langley admitted. Joel does everything for him, runs errands, organizes his finances, so I assumed it was legitimate. He had all the correct forms and updated medical notes. It seemed official. Marina's thoughts raced. Was Joel forging these documents? The idea that Dr. Langley's signature had been possibly replicated was a serious concern. Would you mind checking the signatures more closely? Dr. Langley nodded, scanning closely across the lines on the screen. He rotated the monitor so Marina could see. The electronic signature looked accurate down to the last swirl. Dr. Langley leaned back with trouble etched on his face. My system indicates these are genuine. Unless someone has found a way to hack my practice management software, these look legitimate. He took off his glasses. I'll do more digging, but for now, keep your eyes open. It was a comfort to know Dr. Langley would support her concerns. But Marina still left the clinic with an unsettled feeling stirring in her gut. Did that mean Mr. Pratt's pain had unexpectedly worsened? Or was someone abusing the system? Either way, something did not add up. By mid-afternoon, she saw Joel enter the pharmacy, head down. She noticed a new prescription in his hand as he approached the counter. Afternoon, Joel, she greeted politely. How can I help you today? He placed the slip on the counter, avoiding eye contact. A refill for Mr. Pratt. The same medication, the same high dosage. Marina slowly checked the slip. These have been coming through a lot recently. Is Mr. Pratt's condition growing more severe? Joel looked up with the sort of hollow concern one might put on to avoid suspicion. I suppose it is. His back has been particularly troublesome. He's had difficulty leaving his bed. She studied him carefully. He made no mention of a new diagnosis, only an increase. The tension in his features suggested he was either lying, worried, or both. I see. Well, I'll be just a moment. Marina retreated to the pharmacy's back counter to process the refill. She took a quick glance at the slip and again saw Dr. Langley's signature. It appeared genuine. The system's verification beeped green, signifying everything was valid. With no further justification to deny the refill, she assembled the medication. Yet that deep, uneasy feeling remained. When she returned, Joel thanked her with an odd mixture of haste and relief before slipping out the door. The next day, while she tried not to obsess over the matter, Marina found she couldn't get Zacharias Pratt off her mind. She decided to take a lunch break at the local tea room, a charming place with doilies, mismatched teacups, and a constant swirl of gossip. She invited her close friend, Clara Montgomery, who owned the floristry shop next to the pharmacy. They sat at a round table by the window, sipping fragrant jasmine tea and nibbling on homemade scones drizzled with honey. Clara narrowed her bright eyes. So what you're saying is Mr. Pratt is receiving enough pain medication for a small elephant. Could it be that he's just become dependent? Marina shrugged, nodded. It's possible. But the pattern is so sudden, and Joel always picks it up, The odd thing is, if Mr. Pratt truly needed it, why wouldn't Dr. Langley confirm the changes personally? We haven't seen Mr. Pratt for months. Clara lifted a brow. You think Joel is forging the orders? Marina hesitated. Dr. Langley's system indicated they were genuine. Joel insists Mr. Pratt is unwell, but something about his demeanor puts me on edge. He doesn't seem like a typical caretaker, more like he's anxious about something else. Clara's expression shifted to curiosity. You know, rumors say Mr. Pratt has a controlling hold on people who work for him. Maybe Joel is forced to run suspicious errands, or maybe Mr. Pratt is engaged in black market dealings. Everyone wonders how he keeps that enormous estate afloat. Marina set her teacup down. That's quite the leap. Even so, I can't help suspecting something isn't right. Soon they parted ways. As Marina walked back to the pharmacy, she decided she might pay a discreet visit to Pratt Manor. While she was no detective, it wouldn't hurt to check on her patient, especially since she was the pharmacist responsible for dispensing potent drugs. If something illegal or harmful was happening, she needed to know. That Saturday, she enlisted the help of her cousin Winston, who worked as an occasional handyman for many of the larger homes around Honeythorn. He happened to have done a few odd jobs at Pratt Manor before. Winston drove them in his battered old pickup truck along the winding lane that led out of the village centre and into the deep pockets of countryside. After about 15 minutes, the thick hedgerows gave way to reveal gates leading up a gravelled driveway. Beyond them stood the imposing silhouette of Pratt Manor, an old stone building with peaked roofs, ivy creeping up the walls, and a sense of lonely grandeur. Winston stepped out of the truck, greeting the caretaker at the gate, a tall man with a lined face and a dusty hat. The caretaker recognized Winston from past visits. After some cajoling and a polite mention that Marina was concerned about Mr. Pratt's medication, the caretaker reluctantly rang the house so that they might speak with Mr. Pratt or Joel. Joel emerged onto the front steps. As always, he wore a dishevelled suit and had a tense look about him. "What brings you here, Winston?" he asked, forcing a cordial tone, then flicked his gaze to Marina. "And Miss Fairweather, are you here about Mr. Pratt's prescription again?" Marina tried to smile in a gentle, concerned way. "I wanted to see how he's doing. Given his recent medication changes, I thought a quick wellness check might be beneficial." Joel's lips twisted into something resembling a polite refusal. "Mr. Pratt is resting. He isn't accepting visitors." But the twitch at the corner of his mouth betrayed an internal wariness. Winston piped up. "Mate, it'll just be a few minutes. Marina's serious about her job as pharmacist. She wants to ensure there are no misunderstandings." Joel hesitated, apparently weighing the consequences of outright denying them. Finally he sighed. "You may come into the foyer, but not upstairs. Mr. Pratt's bedroom is off limits." "Understood?" They agreed, stepping into the grand interior. Ornate chandeliers dangled from tall ceilings, and the walls were lined with large oil paintings. The scent of polished wood and old money permeated the corridors. Joel led them through a large hall to a smaller sitting room off the main entrance. Marble floors gave way to a plush Persian rug. The hush was almost suffocating. Joel gestured for them to sit on a tufted couch. "Please wait here." He stepped out, presumably to speak with Mr. Pratt or to think of a good excuse to send them away. Marina used the moment to look around. She noticed some books carefully arranged on a mahogany coffee table. Topics ranged from British architecture to the science of horticulture. A silver tray held a teapot and 2 empty cups. Everything was immaculate. Too immaculate, like a stage set. Winston tapped on the wooden arm of the couch, eyes drifting toward the staircase beyond the doorway. He murmured, "This place creeps me out. I've worked in a lot of big houses, but there's something off here." Marina nodded faintly in agreement. "I just want to make sure Mr. Pratt is all right." A few minutes later, Joel returned, shoulders taut. "Mr. Pratt regrets that he can't receive visitors, but he assures you everything is fine. He's thankful for your concern. Please accept his apologies." If you wish to speak about further prescriptions, you can direct inquiries to me." Marina stood, adjusting the strap of her purse. "I'd prefer to talk to my patient directly. As a pharmacist, I need to verify he's comfortable and that we're not oversupplying a medication he does." A flicker of irritation crossed Joel's face. "I understand your professional stance, Miss Fairweather, but trust that everything is as it should be. I handle all his affairs. If the doctor has questions, he can schedule a formal assessment. Otherwise, Mr. Pratt prefers privacy." The forbidding tone in Joel's voice was enough to discourage further arguing. Winston nodded, giving Marina a subtle elbow nudge as if to say, "Let's not push our luck." They left the manor feeling no more enlightened than when they'd arrived. Most of the ride back, Winston hummed in thought, obviously as puzzled as Marina. Determined to keep an eye on developments, Marina found that over the next couple of weeks neither Mr. Pratt nor Joel requested another refill. She was almost relieved, hoping the suspicious pattern had ceased. Perhaps ironically, Mr. Pratt's back issue had resolved, or Joel had recognized that they were courting attention and decided to lay low. Still, Marina's curiosity about the reasons behind such large quantities of pain medication burned. She continued her routine at the pharmacy, greeting customers, preparing prescriptions, smiling politely at neighbors, and waiting for the next shoe to drop. It dropped on a crisp Friday afternoon. A young woman rushed into the pharmacy, her cheeks flushed and her eyes brimming with worry. Marina recognized her as Frances, an occasional housekeeping assistant at Pratt Manor. She was fairly new in town, a college student on summer holiday. She approached the counter, panting from exertion. "What is it, Frances?" Marina asked gently. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I didn't know what else to do. Mr. Pratt collapsed. Joel wants me to get the medication from here, but I'm scared." She paused to catch her breath. "I think Mr. Pratt might have overdosed on something." Marina's heart leapt. "Is Dr. Langley with him? Has an ambulance been called?" Frances shook her head, voice trembling. "Not yet. Joel insists we don't need paramedics. He said calling 999 or 911, or whichever, would just upset Mr. Pratt. He told me to keep it quiet." "But Mr. Pratt was barely conscious a few minutes ago." Marina's nerves spiked with alarm. "He needs medical attention, immediately. You said Joel told you not to call anyone?" Frances nodded. "Yes, that's why I'm here, to get more medication. Joel told me to hurry, but—" She glanced around, tears welling up. "I'm worried Mr. Pratt could die if we don't get him proper care." Marina wasted no time. She reached for the phone and dialed the emergency number, requesting an ambulance for Pratt Manor. Before Frances could protest, Marina also rang Dr. Langley and explained the situation. He promised he'd be on his way. After hanging up, Marina turned to Frances, who stood rooted with fear. "You did the right thing coming here," Marina assured her. "Let's go back immediately. I'll bring a kit just in case he's in crisis." They rushed out, and minutes later, the ambulance from the local hospital raced past them on the road. By the time Marina and Frances arrived at the manor's gates, the ambulance was parked out front. Paramedics and Dr. Langley were hurrying inside. Marina followed. Within the grand foyer, milling staff and an extremely distraught Joel scrambled about, overshadowed by the somber presence of the paramedics. Dr. Langley quickly made his way up the grand staircase. Marina hesitated in the entryway until a paramedic waved her upstairs to help if needed. Mr. Pratt's bedroom was enormous, with pale blue walls and a canopied bed. The heavy velvet drapes were partially drawn, so only narrow bands of afternoon light fell across the polished floor. On that bed, half covered by blankets, lay Zacharias Pratt. His handsome but pallid face marked by lines of pain. He was indeed conscious but extremely groggy, struggling to speak. Joel hovered nearby, bringing his hands, occasionally glaring at the paramedics as if they were intruders. Dr. Langley examined Mr. Pratt's vitals. "His pulse is weak," he announced, injecting something to stabilize the patient. Then, in calmer tones, he said, "Zacharias, you're in bad shape. We're taking you to the hospital." A veil of confusion floated across Mr. Pratt's features, and his words came out slurred. Meanwhile, Joel fidgeted, pale as a sheet. Marina drew near to Dr. Langley, who slipped an empty medication bottle into the pocket of his coat. He cleared his throat, stepping away from Joel's earshot. He's been consuming large doses of that opioid we prescribed, far beyond what we authorized. This can't be a simple prescription refill error. There's tampering here. Marina felt her lungs constrict. Do you think he's been taking extra, or if someone's been giving it to him without him realizing how much? Dr. Langley's eyes darkened. We'll know more once the hospital runs tests, but it looks like someone has been either sneaking or encouraging him to take more than normal. He paused. It's possible Mr. Pratt was deliberately overdosed. Marina's eyes shot to Joel, who hovered by the bed, biting his nails in agitation. Could Joel mean to harm his employer? If so, why? The paramedics prepared to move Mr. Pratt onto a stretcher. That was when Mr. Pratt's hand shot up, grabbing Marina's wrist with surprising strength. Don't let him. Control everything, he murmured, his gaze darting toward Joel. Then his eyes drifted shut in exhaustion. Control everything. The words lingered in Marina's mind as the paramedics wheeled him out. Joel pressed a trembling hand to his forehead. Oh, God, he muttered. He'll be so upset that we're violating his privacy. His eyes flicked to Marina, filled with a strange mix of fear and anger. Why did you call an ambulance? He always insisted that was off limits. Marina looked at him, trying to keep her voice steady. He needed medical attention. If we'd waited, he might have died. Joel let out a shaky breath, stepping over to the window. You don't understand. Then help me understand, she pressed gently. Why all these prescriptions? Why the secrecy? He shook his head, tears forming. I can't. He told me it was the only way to manage his pain. He made me fetch the refills, then he'd sign them with Dr. Langley's digital signature code. He insisted it was necessary. Joel began pacing, words tumbling out in a frantic rush. But that's not all. He was blackmailed long ago, gave away part of his fortune, and he never trusted anyone again. He hated hospitals because of a betrayal by a doctor who leaked his records to the tabloids. I found a way to replicate Dr. Langley's signature. So yes, we forged those prescriptions, but it was at Mr. Pratt's request. I never imagined it would lead to an overdose. I was just doing what he told me, to keep him calm. He threatened to fire me. He threatened to destroy my life if I didn't comply, but now I see how desperate he truly is. Marina could hardly believe it. Yet looking at Joel's pallor and trembling hands, it seemed plausible. He had been an accomplice, forging prescriptions under Mr. Pratt's instructions. The nurse from the ambulance stepped in, carrying the final bag of equipment. Dr. Langley was already downstairs, securing Mr. Pratt's transport. Joel swallowed hard, brushing tears from his cheeks. I'm sorry. I didn't mean him harm, but I was scared. Come clean with Dr. Langley, Marina said softly. He'll need to know the truth to help Mr. Pratt's recovery. Joel sank into a chair by the window, burying his face in his hands. You're right. That evening, an unsettled hush fell over Honeythorn Village, as word spread that Zacharias Pratt had been taken to the hospital in critical condition. Marina closed the pharmacy at the usual time and made her way to the hospital. There she found Dr. Langley pacing outside Mr. Pratt's room. Winston, who had accompanied her, lingered in the corridor with a comforting presence. Dr. Langley sighed upon seeing Marina. They've stabilized him. The overdose wasn't quite fatal thanks to Francis running to get help. We can expect a long road to recovery. His expression turned grave. The police have arrived. They're investigating. Joel made a statement, said he was forging my signature, but at Mr. Pratt's request. Marina nodded. So was Mr. Pratt intentionally overdosing himself? He was, albeit unknowingly at times, Dr. Langley replied. He apparently thought he could manage his pain by layering prescriptions, forging frequent authorizations, using every pill the moment it arrived, possibly a product of fear or paranoia about outside medical intervention. If he truly believed he had no one else to trust, it spiraled. She gazed at the door, behind which lay the reclusive millionaire. Will they charge him, or Joel, with a crime? Likely. Forging prescriptions is highly illegal, but given Mr. Pratt's condition, I suspect they'll show leniency in exchange for mandatory treatment and psychiatric evaluation. Joel might also face charges, but his lawyers might argue he was under duress. Dr. Langley took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. It's messy, but in the end, the important thing is that Mr. Pratt is alive. If we can get him the help he needs, perhaps he'll heal physically and emotionally. Days turned into a week. The village buzzed with talk about the reclusive millionaire whose secrets had finally surfaced. Some folks felt sympathy, some felt scorn, and others simply marveled at the bizarre chain of events. Marina visited Mr. Pratt at the hospital once he was stable enough for visitors. She found him propped on pillows, a faint colour returning to his cheeks. He looked more human, like an enigmatic figure. Joel stood in the corner, subdued and penitent. "I'm sorry," Mr. Pratt said hoarsely when Marina approached. An oxygen tube looped over his ears. "For pulling you into this. I was so afraid. I've always hated doctors, and I couldn't bring myself to trust them after a lifetime of betrayal. I should have asked for help, not coerced Joel into forging those refills." Marina offered a small, empathetic smile. "I'm just glad you're safe now. The important thing is focusing on getting better." Mr. Pratt closed his eyes. "I see that now. I should have listened to reason, but perhaps after I recover, I can make amends." Marina hoped so. She left a small bouquet of honeysuckle on the windowsill, wishing him well. Outside the hospital room, she ran into Dr. Langley, who told her that Mr. Pratt was expected to face a hearing, but given his fragile state, the authorities were likely to prioritize treatment and support. Joel, too, had legal hurdles to overcome, though the entire fiasco seemed to be tempered by compassion for a man who felt cornered by his own fear and wealth. A few weeks later, life in Honeythorn Village returned mostly to normal. The gossip began to fade, replaced by new chatter about the upcoming flower show. Marina, still busy at the pharmacy, sometimes received updates from Joel under a new sense of transparency about Mr. Pratt's progress. He had begun physical therapy, supervised by a legitimate medical team, and was taking steps toward healthier pain management. It would take time for the trust he once lost to rebuild, but he was on a better path. Perhaps his enormous estate would feel less like a lonely fortress and more like a home willing to welcome well-intentioned visitors. One mild afternoon, Dr. Langley stopped by the pharmacy just as Marina was refilling the shelves with allergy medication. He had a stack of updated prescriptions for Mr. Pratt, all carefully examined and appropriately signed with no possibility of duplication or forging. Dr. Langley smiled, handing them over. "He's turning over a new leaf, hopefully. He sent his thanks for your concern, and he asked me to deliver a little note to you." Marina accepted the small, sealed envelope. Inside, written in an elegant cursive hand, was a short message of gratitude from Mr. Pratt. He apologized again for the trouble and expressed his intention to donate more generously to the village medical facilities, with the hope that future patients wouldn't feel compelled to hide behind walls of secrecy. Marina's chest warmed. It was a sign of positive change, however gradual. As the pharmacy door chimed with the arrival of a customer, Dr. Langley said his goodbye with a tip of his hat. Marina took a breath, sliding Mr. Pratt's newest prescriptions into her system. The tension that had hovered over her for weeks now lifted. She turned her attention to the new customer, greeting them with a bright smile, reveling in the reassurance that, while Honeythorn Village might look tranquil, it held its share of mysteries and hidden pains. And yet, in this modest, close-knit community, there was always hope that a careful eye and a caring heart could set things right, even when a reclusive millionaire's secrets threatened to unravel.